Bridge of Spies. Bridge of Spies was released in 2015 and is directed by Steven Spielberg and has the music this time by Thomas Newman. Not John Williams this time. John Williams was off scoring the music for Star Wars: The Force Awakens at this point. Spielberg had to bring someone else in. He brought Thomas Newman in. Thomas Newman, who's done such famous musical scores for such famous films as The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and most recently the Oscar-nominated film 1917. And so he did the music for this film. Basically, this film is based on a true story. This film stars Tom Hanks, Mark Rylance, Amy Ryan, Austin Stowell, might be pronounced that wrong, apologies if I am, and Alan Alder. And basically this film is set in the Cold War. We follow Tom Hanks' character James B. Donovan, who by the way is a real person who had to defend this Soviet spy who's been captured in America, played by Mark Rylance. The American government they don't really want him to be properly defended. So when they do ask James B. Donovan, played by Tom Hanks, to defend this Soviet spy, played by Mark Rylance, saying that so they can say, oh yeah, we defended him, he got hung in the end and he went to the electric chair. So the real American government at this point in time just want this Soviet spy to go to the red chair. However, Tom Hanks' character, James B. Donovan, who by the way is a real person, is not like that. He wants to have a full-on trial with this Soviet spy. And so many people are against him, many people in America are against him because he's trying to protect a Soviet spy in America. And at the same time, by a lot of James B. Donovan's family keeps getting targeted because, you know, he's protecting a Soviet spy. However, an American spy, Francis Guy Powers, gets captured by the Soviet Union after trying to take pictures in the high air, but he's playing it shot down and he gets captured by the Soviet Union. And at the same time, another American in the Soviet Union also gets captured, known as Frederick Pryor, he's just a college student. And so the Soviet Union have captured both. We jump back to James B. Donovan, and basically the CIA are trying to get this exchange to happen between the Soviet spy, which is they have in America, and the American spy, which the Soviet Union have. But at the same time, James B. Donovan, played by Tom Hanks, also wants Frederick Pryor to be exchanged as well back to America. So there's a lot of complications to that occur, and it isn't just as simple as it sounds. It isn't just a simple straight up exchange. Because bear in mind, James B. Donovan is trying to exchange one person, just a Soviet spy, in exchange for two American people. It gets quite interesting, quite complicated, and quite intriguing as the film carries on. And no one's really sure how this exchange is going to take place. So you don't know in the end who they're going to exchange. They're just going to exchange one person, they're just going to exchange both people, they're going to shoot the Americans in the process of exchange. We don't know what's going to happen up until the exchange, and it's really interesting to watch. And this is a fantastic film in my opinion. I think it's really strong and it's Spielberg touch about it, but at the same time it doesn't, in my opinion. If you watch this film, you wouldn't really know it's Spielberg, but at the same time, there's a lot of things in the film which I think, you know, are classic Spielberg. At the same time, I think it's a really interesting and at the same time gripping and gets to be more and more intense film. I think it's a really good film. But just to say, before I get into the rest of the review of this film, just to say that if you're one of those people who don't like, and I hate this expression, but talking films, where there's a lot of talking going on, not really any action sequences, there's a few, I wouldn't really call them action sequences, there's a few intense sequences in this film, but really, this film just revolves around kind of intense talking scenes. But if you're one of those people who just doesn't find those talking films interesting, this film will not be for you. However, I'm one of those people that like all different types of films. I will give a film a go. I'll happily give a film a go. And I was really surprised by Bridge of Spies. I think it's a fantastic film. And the thing was, I properly watched this film about 2 years ago now. I remember I watched it initially when it came out on DVD, and I couldn't get into it when I initially watched it. And I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get into it back. I think it was like 2016 when I initially watched it. Yeah, because this film came out in 2015 in cinemas. So yeah, but then I sat down and watched it about 2 years ago. When I watched it, and when I sat down and watched it, I was like, oh wow, it's actually a fantastic film. You know, I actually, there's so many elements of the film that I love when I watched it 2 years ago. And I watched it last night as well. I still think there's an absolutely fantastic film. You know, it isn't a perfect film, but at the same time, it's pretty damn good. What I liked about the film so much was the fact that Spielberg managed to direct these scenes just with lots of dialogue fantastically well, and just makes the scene so much more intense and so much more cinematic as well. You know, there's so many scenes in this film where it's just two characters talking, but doesn't feel like that. It actually becomes quite intense and quite cinematic to the point that you're kind of watching it and thinking, oh, this is actually really interesting. It's kind of hard to believe that I'm just watching a scene just with dialogue, because it's actually really interesting and it's directed really well. Like, whenever there's an important phrase said in these exchanges of dialogue between these two characters, whenever there's an important phrase said, the camera will just cut to a close-up of that one character as he says that important phrase. It's edited really well and it's shot really well, and I think Spielberg did a fantastic job keeping people interested through almost all this film, and that's incredible, because sometimes when there is a lot of dialogue in film, I must admit, I can get a bit lost and a bit like uninterested, but that never happened with this film. In fact, I thought quite a lot of the dialogue scenes were really intense and gripping. I am a huge fan of Mark Rylance's performance in the film. Mark Rylance's performance in the film is absolutely fantastic. Honestly, he's not in as much of the film as I remember him being about 2 years ago, but he's not really in the second act of the film at all. But he's one of the key characters. He plays, you know, the Soviet spy which Americans have captured, and he's really good in the film. Honestly, he doesn't really have much lines of dialogue, but whenever he's on screen, you feel, you know he's on screen. He has a lot of presence when he's on screen, and it's really, really interesting to watch, and really fantastic to watch. He's really, really good in the film. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Mark Rylance's performance in the film. I completely understand why he won an Oscar for his performance in the film as well. The way, though, that Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance play off each other in the film, it's quite something. It's quite something special, because these are two people from quite literally different worlds. You know, Tom Hanks is quite an American person. He speaks a lot. He's quite a talkative person. Whereas Mark Rylance's character, he's from the Soviet Union, and at the same time, he doesn't talk much. He's not really a talkative person. And when you have this exchange between dialogue between just those two characters, Tom Hanks' character and Mark Rylance's character, the thing that works so well is simply the way they play off each other. Because like Tom Hanks' character was like, she's like, are you not nervous? And then Mark Rylance's character was just like, would it help? And it's just things like that in the film that just works so well. That's one of the key lines in the film. That's just, would it help? You know, that's a line that Mark Rylance's character keeps saying throughout the whole of the film. Even adds to a bit of, you know, comedy in the film, a bit of, you know, black odd comedy in the film, which I really like. And so going on to that topic of comedy in the film, this film does actually have moments of comedy. Like other serious Spielberg films, this film does have moments of comedy, and moments of comedy sprinkled in and out of the film. The comedy works really well. You know, it comes out in a really unexpected way. It's just like, oh, you laugh. It works, especially with Mark Rylance's character. And I think the third act of the film is so good. Not to say the first two acts of the film are bad, because they're not. First parts of the film are really good. In fact, in the second act of the film, there's a scene with Francis Guy Powers, which is the American spy. He's on the plane, and the plane's, you know, falling down. It's being missile. It's breaking down in midair. It's such a fantastic and intense scene. It's got no music. It's just an absolutely intense scene. You just see this plane falling out of the air. Francis Guy Powers, he's trying to get his parachute out, and he can't get out in time. It's falling down in midair. God knows how quickly. And it's absolutely fantastic, intense sequence. There's no music. It's just so intense. Even though the film was made in 2015, it still works as a very intense sequence. Honestly, it really did look like that plane was falling out of the sky. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic to watch. It really was. And there's so many fantastic sequences of the film. My only criticism of the film would be that sometimes I wasn't that interested in the storyline to do with Francis Guy Powers. I understand that storyline is important to the plot of the film, but the thing is, I lost a bit of interest in his storyline, especially when you have Mark Rylance on the other end of that storyline, giving off an amazing performance. And not to say that Austin Stowell, who plays Francis Guy Powers in this film, is bad. He's not giving off a bad performance at all. But that storyline just is not as interesting as the storyline to do with the Soviet person in America. It's just not as interesting. And also, there are some slow moments in the film, I must admit. Like in the opening scene of the film, although, you know, I really did like the opening scene of the film, it is a bit slow. It does take a bit of time to settle into. So if you are going to watch the film, you just give it some time to settle into. Because once it does settle in, it settles in really well. Like in the opening scene of the film, we meet Mark Rylance's character, the Soviet spy, who's in America, and he's just painting himself. And it's a bit of a slow scene. We just kind of get introduced his character in a bit of an odd way. Then we realise, oh, then when you're looking back, you realise, oh wow, that's why he introduced him in the odd way, because, well, he's an odd character. And although that scene now works really well in my head, looking back at it, watching it, it's just a bit of a slow lead in. This isn't a film which is going to be fast paced. It isn't going to be like your average spy film. It's not like that. This is a true story, so there's actually quite a lot of slow scenes that are still quite intense and work quite well for me personally. Anyway, they did. Don't get me wrong, there are still some fast sequences, some sequences which will really like heighten your emotion. The sequence involving when Tom Hanks' character is on the tram in the Soviet Union and he's looking at some people trying to go over this wall and they all get shot down. And again, that's another fantastic sequence. But at the same time, there are a lot of talking sequences which are just as interesting, but if you're not into that, then I'm afraid you might be, and I hate to use this phrase, but bored through the majority of this film. Fortunately though, I wasn't, and I found this film really interesting and absolutely fantastic to watch. Let's quickly talk about the music, shall we? The music by Thomas Newman. Like I said, Thomas Newman is a famous film composer. I don't think his score for this film, though, is that fantastic, I must admit. His score isn't bad. There's a lot of scenes in the film where the score works really well. But it's not as memorable as it could be. It isn't a bad score, just, yeah, it's not great. That's what I'm trying to say. I think his score is good, but that's what I'm going to say. But it's got a good score in the film, and I just think it's so well directed. I think it's really good. I think Spielberg did a superb job with the execution of this fantastic story, because this is a really interesting story at that. And at the same time, I think the performances were fantastic for everyone, especially the lead two performances. When they're in the scene together, like you're watching two characters from two different worlds. Spielberg even said in the Mark Rylance's character in the film is kind of like an alien, but not like the alien he usually does. Like, it's not E.T. or something. You know, it's just a normal human, but he doesn't act a normal human way. And Mark Rylance plays that character so well. Honestly, Tom Hanks plays James B. Donovan so well in the film. He really does. And for that reason, I'm going to give Bridge of Spies an 8.7 out of 10. I don't think it's one of Spielberg's best films. It's not one of his worst by far. Bridge of Spies has that special Spielberg touch, but also he brings something different to this film, which I don't think he's really brought to any of his films before. It's not got as much music as a typical Spielberg film would, and it relies more on the dialogue, it relies more on the direction. For that reason, I think this film is fantastic. It isn't your typical Spielberg film, but it is at the same time. And for that reason, I'm just going to say that Bridge of Spies is an 8.7 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of one of Spielberg's more recent films, Bridge of Spies? Do you love it to hate it, or have you just not watched it? And if not, why not? Please do comment below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And just say once again, I'm still watching and reviewing a handful of Spielberg films right now, and then coming to the end of my Spielberg film review spree, so look forward to my review of War Horse, which is going to be very interesting to talk about, coming very soon on the channel. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on this video, and look forward to many more, both film and TV reviews coming very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye!